Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football. Back again with another update for Hugh Freeze and the Auburn Tigers coming out of the transfer portal as former Mississippi State offensive tackle Percy Lewis committing to Auburn. And we've had this conversation a lot over the last couple of weeks, and that is it's hard to find starting caliber tackles available in the transfer portal. I think Auburn did two things. One, they found a starting caliber offensive tackle in Percy Lewis, who we'll talk about in a little bit. But more importantly, an offensive tackle that has played in the SEC, has started games in the SEC, and has shown that he can be a very good offensive tackle at the SEC level. You talk about massive gets for Auburn in the transfer portal. I think Percy Lewis is at the top of the list. And what I love most about this addition is sounds like you kicked Dylan Wade into left guard, which is probably his better position. So you're getting better at left tackle and upgrading that left guard spot all in one transfer portal move. You look at this Auburn offensive line heading into 2024. I mean, it sounds like you're feeling good about 6, 7, 8 guys on that offensive line, not to mention someone like DeAndre Carter coming in the 2024 class. Really big fan of what Auburn is doing with this offensive line. They did a phenomenal job last year reshaping this offensive line in the portal, and I think they're doing a really nice job again heading into 2024. Want to talk about Percy Lewis, talk about what he brings to this Auburn program, and then talk about another massive transfer portal target that will be visiting Auburn this weekend. Before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. This has been just an absolute blast covering these commitments over the last couple of weeks. And for Auburn, we've talked a lot of transfer portal. We've also talked a lot of high school recruiting. Obviously, with Nick Saban retiring at Alabama, I think that opens the door for not only a guy like Ryan Williams, but a lot of the guys in state at Alabama. I would expect Auburn to have a very good class in 2025 and closing out the 2024 cycle. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you guys do enjoy the content and enjoy the updates, consider subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, I want to get into Percy Lewis and spend some time reading about Percy Lewis this morning. And this is a guy that is really intriguing because of the physical traits that he has. Like, one thing you really can't teach, and that is size, and the length and the size that Percy Lewis has is certainly there, right? 6'8", extremely long arms. And I think the most important thing when you're talking about Percy Lewis is when he was coming out of JUCO, he was a very attractive offensive tackle prospect because of the size. And that being, you can't really teach what he brings to the table, but he needed to kind of transform that body a little bit, right? Carrying 360 plus pounds, he definitely was lacking a little bit of athleticism. And he cuts down to 345, kind of gets that body right, carrying 345 exceptionally well. And you see the movement skills increase. And this is a guy that is just extremely hard to get to the quarterback against because of the length that he has and the power that he has in his frame. And you watch the gains for Percy Lewis, and I think the thing that's most exciting is the trajectory is going in the right direction, right? Was a rotational guy the first couple of games, and then started the last 7 games for Mississippi State in that 2023 season. 235 pass blocking opportunities, only gave up 6 pressures. And this was one of the better protection offensive tackles, pass protection offensive tackles in the SEC last year. And again, I think there's still some meat left on the bone in terms of where he's going as a football player. I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Percy Lewis being one of the better offensive tackles in the SEC next year. Really good in pass pro. He's going to allow you to kick Dylan Wade into guard. Now, the one thing that you probably want to see get a little bit better, kind of notice this against Texas A&M, really good in pass protection, right? He's a very good athlete, has very good feet for being 6'8", 345. You can't really go through him. He's hard to go around because of the length that he has. Now, the one thing that he does give up, and the thing that you're probably looking for him to improve on as he gets to Auburn, is moving bodies in the run game. Again, when you're 6'8", it's hard to play with low pad level. It's hard to kind of get off the ball with any sort of power when you're that big. He has the size to move some bodies, and you want to see him take that next step in the run game. But when you're talking about grabbing a starting left tackle, like, the first thing you need is a guy that can hold up in pass protection. And then Percy Lewis certainly checks that box. And a guy that, again, at 345 pounds, like, he can take strides in the run game as well. And again, what I love most about this get is, one, you're getting a starting caliber left tackle. That is extremely hard to do in the transfer portal. You're able to kick Dylan Wade into guard. And you're kind of building that depth for the Auburn Tigers. And this is an offensive line that you look at this roster. And a guy like Jaden Muskrat might not even start for Auburn in 2024, but you feel good about what he can do on that offensive line. All of a sudden, you're feeling really good about the depth that this unit has as well. And so Auburn, a massive get in Percy Lewis, fan of what they're doing in the transfer portal, although it hasn't been as aggressive as we saw Hugh Freeze do last year. I think you're seeing him focus more on the high school trail. And he's bringing in a top 8 class. 2025 looks to be a very good class. I think Hugh Freeze is trying to marry that. Yeah, we want to continue to upgrade this roster in the transfer portal, but we know that how Auburn gets back to where it belongs, it comes from recruiting the high school ranks. And Hugh Freeze is doing that at an extremely high level. And if you were to tell Auburn fans, all right, we're going to be a little less aggressive in the transfer portal, but that's going to pay off massive dividends in the high school ranks. Every single Auburn fan listening to this is taking the high school recruiting over the transfer portal. And it might lead to a little delayed gratification in terms of, all right, is Auburn winning an SEC title in 2024? Maybe not. But you talk about 2025 and in 2026, I mean, this team and the talent that they're accumulating from the high school ranks is going to be an absolute problem in the next couple of years. Now, another transfer portal target that I'm looking at in a position group that we've talked about for Auburn, I mean, you're losing a guy like Pritchett and DJ James and Simpson and Puckett, 4 guys that are going to be playing on Sundays next fall. You needed to get some bodies and some starting bodies into that back end of this defense. Now, keeping a guy like Keontae Scott is absolutely massive. Another guy I'm looking at that Auburn's hosting this weekend is Jaron Thompson. And the first thing you talk about with Jaron Thompson, and that you can't really teach again, is the Power 5 starting experience that he has. Over 176 tackles during his career, 5 interceptions, 18 passes defended. I think one of the better cover safeties that you saw in the Big 12 last year. He gets his hands on a lot of footballs. He gets in throwing lanes, is really good in man coverage. But the thing I love most about Jaron Thompson is the versatility. And this guy was used all over the field for the Texas Longhorns in 2023. Lined up over 80 times as a box defender, 116 as a slot defender in that nickel role, and then another 350 snaps as a deep free safety. And so this is a guy that you can use kind of all around in the back end, and a guy that has that starting experience that you're looking for Auburn, right? You're looking for a guy that heading into 2024, you can bring in and feel really good about what he can do as a starter in the back end, really wherever he plugs in. Has played a lot of football, has done it at a high level. Now, the one thing for Jaron Thompson, having watched a lot of Jaron Thompson, I've watched a lot of Texas Longhorns football that I want to see cleaned up. And this is a thing that I think he certainly can do. I want to see him tackle a little bit better. He's very good in coverage. He gets his hands on a lot of footballs. He has a ton of range in the back end, plays the football extremely well, over 5 interceptions during his time at Texas, 18 passes defended. A guy that when you ask him to come into the box, I want to see him be a little bit more physical in terms of being a force in the run game, being able to tackle in space. And again, a guy like Jaron Thompson has the traits to be a very good tackler. You just want to see him put it together as a tackler at Auburn in 2024. If you can land Jaron Thompson on the heels of Percy Lewis, you look at Auburn in terms of checking boxes, in terms of, all right, we needed to improve these kind of positions in the transfer portal, right? That secondary was a massive priority when you're losing 4 starters to the NFL draft. You want to continue to get that offensive line right. You bring in a guy like Percy Lewis, who has a ton of starting experience at a high level in the SEC. Those are the type of boxes that you want to see checked. You go and get a guy like Trill Carter to add some depth on the inside of that defensive line. Auburn and Hugh Freeze, it has not been as splashy and as flashy as last year in the transfer portal. That being said, I think it's a little bit more of a complete transfer portal class in terms of addressing the roster needs that this team had heading into 2024. Jaron Thompson would be a massive get. Percy Lewis, very, very good get for the Auburn Tigers. We'll see as they continue to do work in the transfer portal, continue to build this 2025 class. This is a program that you guys know I love talking recruiting. We're going to be talking a lot of Auburn recruiting over the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys again. If you guys do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.